Well, would you look at that? It's snowing again. Time to go inside and bake some fresh bread. All right, let's begin. You're going to want a package of dry activated yeast. This is about 1/4 of an ounce. You're going to add it to 2 1/4 cups of warm water. And I just put mine in the microwave, kind of test it out. It's about 110. You want it between 110 and 115. We're just going to add our yeast to our water. Then while that's getting dissolved, we're going to have 3 tablespoons of sugar. Going to let that get that dissolved. We got 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. I'm using olive oil. We're going to use 6 to 6 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. And I need a spoon. All right, let's get that yeast dissolved. And we've got a nice bowl that we're going to put everything in. I have 2 pans that I've already greased. Okay, let's get that in. And we're going to go right ahead and add our sugar. Give it a stir. Our salt, I did label that because I have 2 of the same. And 2 tablespoons of oil. Let's get every last drop. Okay, you don't want to waste it. Okay, then we're going to start by adding 1 cup at a time of our flour. When you're measuring your flour, you don't want to just take it and scoop it out. You want to spoon it into your measuring cup and just keep it light and fluffy and level it off. Okay, we're going to add 1 cup of flour. I'm going to use my mixer. I'm going to get that stirred up quick. Rather liquidy at this point. You do want to get it all mixed. Scrape down those sides a little bit. And we're going to add our 2nd cup of flour. So we're going to add about 3 cups of this mix, which is half of the flour for the whole recipe. We're just going to use the beater for the first 3 cups, and then I'm going to get my hands dirty, and I'm going to mix the rest with a spoon as much as I can, and then I'll be using my hands after that. Once again, scrape that down. You can smell the yeast. Nothing like fresh baked bread. If you put more than 3 cups in, it's going to get really hard to use the mixer. You can see it's thickening up. Get all the sides. I don't know how well you can see that. Okay. And I'll give you a little break. All right, now we're going to finish adding our flour. We're just going to get it incorporated. Just kind of stir it in. You can see it's still rather liquidy, but it is thickening up. It's removing the flour around the edges. Nice and sticky. Don't want to add too much at a time. It is going to get a little harder to stir. And that's when we're going to get our hands in there. Make sure you got clean hands. And wear your apron because, boy, that really protects your clothing. I don't know how many times that I've baked And then I've wiped my hands on my backside only to have a handprint down there. So, lesson learned. Okay, you can see that it's coming up real nice. Okay. See how much more flour we can get in there. Now, I am going to use my hands and get this mixed up. It's rather stringy, sticky. I'm going to sprinkle some flour on my countertop. And I am going to flour my hands a bit. Just dig in there, start going. Once this is mixed up, we're going to put it on our countertop, and then we're going to knead it for between 8 to 10 minutes. And I will turn after that. Had to let the dog out. So I'm just grabbing the flour from the bottom, and I'm just pushing it into the dough. Okay, we're going to be taking it out pretty quick here. We've got a little bit left on the bottom. I think we'll take it out now. So you can see it's all kind of all apart. Just add a little bit of that. And I'm just going to push it down, turn it, push it down. And we're just going to incorporate all this flour into this. Push it down. You don't want to tear it with your fingertips. You're going to turn it a half turn or a quarter turn and keep pushing it down. We're going to do this for 10 minutes. And this is a workout. So those of you thinking that you need to go to the gym and pay somebody, well, heck, just get yourself a workout by doing some homemade baked bread. But it's a good workout. Looks like it pretty falling apart here, but it's really how it goes, and you just keep kneading that down. It's going to come out beautifully. And for the purpose of the video, we're going to do this the full 10 minutes. Just fold it, knead with the palm of your hand, knead it down, build those muscles. You women know what I'm talking about. And now it's starting to come together more. It's not so floury. You feel the difference with your hands. It's get a little bit sticky, but it's not so bad. Fold it, push it down. And when you think you need some flour, just sprinkle a little bit more on. And if you decide that you don't want to watch the whole kneading process, you can just fast forward. Sometimes we just need to see things all the way through to know that, by golly gee whiz, I can do that too. And you can do this. It took me a long time before I got up the nerve to decide that I am going to make my own bread. No more going to the store, having poor ingredients in the food that I'm eating. Not no more. No, sir, I'm taking control of my life. Been about 3 minutes. And it's so much different than it was before. Look at that. We still have between 5 to 7 minutes. A little technical difficulty there. So as I was saying, you can get flour, bulk flour, and then just store it in your freezer. Hey, and where are we? Okay, we've been kneading this for 6 minutes. So what's stopping you from making your first homemade bread? My whole thing was, I just don't know if I can do that yeast thing where it's got to be lukewarm water. What is lukewarm water? Well, that's why I used that little temperature gauge, and that was it. And buy yeast that's fresh. You want to store it in your freezer also. So there's no excuse. You can do this. Okay, now it's getting a little bit tougher, and it's not sticking as well as it was, so I'm not going to try to add any more flour to my surface. And I'm getting all red because it is a workout. Well, I guess I'm going to have to let the dog in. Alrighty. Dog is in. Okay, we've got about 1 more minute left. And then we're going to pause you for a second. I'm going to clean out the bowl, like I said, grease it. And I'm also going to turn it upside, the dough in the bowl upside down, so that the top of the dough has some grease on it also. But look at this beautiful dough that we've made. It looks fabulous. It really comes around to a beautiful piece. I hope you give this a try. Okay, I'm going to clean up that bowl. All right, let's grease that bowl now that it's all clean. And while I had you pause, I did go ahead and get a nice kitchen towel, wet, just damp. So we're just taking our butter wrapper and we're just going to grease the inside of our bowl. And you want to get enough on there so that when we put the dough in there, we're going to flip it upside down so the top side of the dough has some grease on it also. And don't forget to get your baking pans out and grease those also. This is going to make 2 loaves. All right, that should be good. Let's get that in there. What a beauty. So we're going to put it in, and then we're just going to roll it around in there just to get the top part full of grease also. You can just flip it upside down. All right, get that covered. And you want your temperature of your room to be about 75 to 85 is good. And you're going to let this double in size. You can see how big it is now. You're going to let it double in size, and that could take anywhere between 1.5 hours to 2 hours depending on your room temp. We'll be back once it's rose. All right, it's been about 2 hours, and our dough has definitely doubled in size. Look at that beauty. We're just going to poke 2 fingers in the center And we want to make sure that the indent stays, and that way we know that it's risen the amount that it needs to rise. So we're going to poke it in, and you see it kind of flattened, went in there, it's still there. So now we're going to punch it down, get all your anger out. Good. Nice. All right, and flip it onto your floured surface. And now we're going to break it into, look at that beauty. We're just going to tear it in two. If you have a knife or something to cut it with, you go right ahead. I'm just going to tear it, break it apart, put one aside, back in my bowl, and the other one I'm just going to put on the surface here. We're going to flour our rolling pin, and we're going to roll it into a rectangle. And you don't have to be too particular about this. You just want to get a certain shape. Have your pans ready, have them greased. Now you want it, actually, we're going to do our second rise, so we're not going to be cooking it yet. We're baking it yet. So just kind of make a rectangle with that. Keep some flour on here or it will stick. It'll come back up. Make sure my camera is on, since I've had nothing but trouble today. And you just keep rolling it. All right. So yes, you are going to have your pans ready because you're going to put your dough in your pan. Okay, now I'm just going to roll this starting at the short end. I'm going to roll it and I'm going to keep it tight so that there's no air getting in here underneath. And you just want to continue to roll it. Use your hands, sides of your hand, and just roll it up. Okay, not so hard. And you can see it turns out like this. It's got these edges. We're just going to tuck those in, and all I'm going to do is pinch them together. And I'm pinching that seam together also. And we're just going to put this with the seam side down, just like it is, into our pan. And just kind of fit it in there. It'll shrink up a little bit. And then we're going to make sure that we have our wet, damp towel, because we're going to cover it again. And then we're going to let that rise another, depending on your room temperature, 1 to 2 hours. Get this other one rolled out. So we're going to let it rise in the baking pan. And when it has doubled in size once again, then we will be ready to bake. So we're just going to get this other one in. You know, this making bread is not a hard thing to do whatsoever. It's just the whole getting past certain things, and the process is a little bit long, but it's not like you're doing that the whole time. You're waiting for it to rise. So that's really the whole long thing about it all. Okay, I'm going to do one more row. Okay, start rolling that up. Once again, keeping it tight so that you don't get any air pockets. Nice, beautiful. Pinch those ends. Put it in our pan, seam side down. Get your damp towel and cover it once again. You can do this. We'll see you back when it's all doubled in size. Okay, our bread has doubled in size. In the recipe I have, it says it takes about 30 to 35 minutes. For me, it takes longer. So I had mine rising for about 2 hours. Okay, we're going to put this in the oven. We're going to bake it at 375 for 30 to 35 minutes. And you'll knock it with your finger. It'll sound hollow when it's done. So we'll be back when it's ready. And you want to set your bread on the center of your rack, your oven rack. Our bread is done. You can hear it nice and hollow, beautifully browned. I wish you could smell it. Well, you'll be able to smell your own once you make some. So we're just going to let it sit here. I'm going to tip it over and let it cool all the way. And you want to give it some time before you go ahead and cut it because you don't want to crush it. Isn't that beautiful? Well, I hope you make your own bread. Thanks for watching. Well, I really can't let you go without cutting a piece off first. Let me let it cool off a bit. And there it is. We're going to butter that. You can kind of see the rolls when we rolled it. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Let's butter it. Oh, I wish you could taste it. Guess I'll have to do it for you. It's got just enough crunch. You have to wait your turn.